Welcome back to the Unacceptable News. I'm your host, Justin Bush. Today's story is about a video that was released many years ago in 1997. To get the full understanding of this story, I have to tell you some personal anecdotes from my own life. I started this channel very recently, obviously. The reason I started this channel is because I have had experiences with the paranormal, UFOs, aliens or extraterrestrials, whatever you may call them, since I was very young. And in 2018, I had an experience that led me to do some research on aliens and UFOs. When I did that research, I immediately came upon a video that I had not seen before about a so-called alien interview. In the video, it showed a creature, a person, shouldn't call them creatures, but it showed a organism, a man, a being, if you will, that seemed to be a non-human, intelligent creature. This gray alien, as they've come to be known, big black eyes, very large, round, bulbous head. These are the tan skin varieties, very yellowish, tannish skin. When I saw this video, I couldn't watch. I'm about to do another story about an experience I had when I was much younger, almost 20 years ago, that revolves around this video and these creatures. But today's story is not about my personal experiences. I only bring them up to illustrate that when I found this video in 2018, I couldn't watch. It took me about 3 tries to actually watch this video. My experiences have been fairly traumatic over the years, and I couldn't watch the video. I saw a clip of it, and I clicked on it, and as you go through and watch the entire documentary that was released in 1997, when it got to the point where it showed the actual video of the creature, I couldn't watch like a small child watching a horror movie. I had to block my eyes. It took me about 3 tries, and then on the 4th try, the anxiety went down. I was able to watch the full breadth of the video. This creature is an exact copy or replica or a perfect image, a perfect recording of creatures that I met throughout the course of my life, specifically a very specific creature that I met in 2009 when I was 21 years old. It is such a perfect replica of that gray alien that I met in 2009, and there are differences amongst these gray aliens. There's some of them are shorter, some of them are taller, some of them have slightly different colored skin, appendages, so on and so forth. This was such a perfect copy of the creature that I met in 2009 that I'm now seeing in 2018, that I put it in my book. My book is linked in the description of my channel. You can feel free to read it if you like. It's just a memoir of my own personal experiences over the years with this UFO phenomenon, which is why the channel is devoted to this strange phenomenon. It's not that any news stories are off the table. It's simply that I believe that with my own personal experiences, I can give a better viewpoint of other people's stories, because I know the parts that are real based on my own experience versus some fairly outlandish things that have been said over the years. Everybody knows the UFO community is split between hard-nosed researchers and some extremely outlandish stories that seem to get and have been getting a lot of press over the decades. So we see the most outlandish stories with the least amount of evidence in the front page, where we see the most hard-nosed investigators and their research on the back page, where it is very rarely viewed by the public and scrutinized in the way that it deserves to be scrutinized. So to get to this story is a brand new video from Jack from Cosmic Road. It's a wonderful YouTube channel. The last time I checked, it only had 6,000 views, which is a travesty. This is an amazing exclusive interview with gubernatorial candidate Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart has been investigating the Victor video for 5 years, and he is doing a documentary about his investigation. He's done many podcasts about his investigation and what he's learned. This video from Jack from Cosmic Road is what we're going to be reacting to today, and the information that Jon Stewart has been putting out there. I highly recommend, if you find any information about Jon Stewart, any of his interviews, I think they're fantastic. I've spoken with him via email on just a few occasions, nothing major. But the Victor video, as it's many people call it, or the alien interview video, Victor is the alias of the supposed government employee that leaked the video. Jon has been investigating that, and he has gotten a lot of great leads and been able to talk to many people. His interview very specifically goes over a former wife of a government employee that was a supposed telepath. So his job was to communicate with these creatures. Now, I can tell you from firsthand experience that they do communicate telepathically. Some people call it thought projection. Some people call it telepathic communication. Some people think it's synthetic telepathy, that implants are involved and it's a technology. Regardless of how they communicate, it is a telepathic communication. And the Victor video, it is alleged that they have multiple military members watching this interview, and I believe 2 telepaths in the room attempting to communicate with this gray alien in order to garner information. And so this woman, her name, it might be an alias, but her name is Barbara in the interview. That's what Jon Stewart calls her. She is alleging that my former husband was that telepath, or a telepath, in this program at the Area 51 complex in a facility there. And he goes over information that was given to him during his investigation from Barbara. So we'll be looking at a clip here, and then we'll react to it.
The small grays were genetically engineered, 1000% android, part organic, part machine. They were made by the tall grays. Listen to me, what he said, allegedly. They were made by the tall grays, but 2 species use them. And I asked Barbara, what did he mean by that? She said, quote, they were basically DNA collectors for 2 species.
Yeah, well,
they were the people that you would send, the reconnaissance, the explorers, the DNA collectors, the Messiah. You know, the I'm going to let myself get taken by someone from this planet. I'm going to test them. I'm going to see. This is what Victor said. This is what many other people in the program have said they feel.
Okay, so in that clip, Jon talks about genetically engineered robots that are used by multiple groups of aliens, and that they are essentially genetic collectors. I can say from my own personal experiences with these gray aliens, these specific species of gray aliens, same everything, same eyes, noses, ears, head shape, skin color, they wear the same clothes. My personal experiences with these little grays, some people call them other grays, they definitely are collecting genetic information. They are grabbing people, they're taking skin samples, blood samples, hair samples. They are injecting some unknown objects into people's bodies. There's some more information about that comes out in the interview that I think is fairly spectacular if it's true. But either way, my own personal experiences with these gray aliens, they are doing exactly what is alleged here in the interview. But more than that, I don't like calling them robots. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you genetically engineer someone, let's say you have IVF, in vitro fertilization. So you take an egg, you take out the DNA from the inside, you put something else in it, and you grow it. Whether you grow it in a human or an animal or in we are developing incubation tubes now to incubate living creatures outside of the womb. You can look this information up for yourself. Maybe I'll put a clip up here of a news article about these incubators. So if you take DNA and you create an organism, right? Let's say a human, IVF. You create a human. You mix some DNA, you create a human. If you are controlling that human, if your boss gives you an order and says, do this, do that, do this, and you have to listen or otherwise you lose your job, that doesn't make you a robot. If these creatures are genetically engineered, I don't see a problem with that at all. We humans are now genetically engineering ourselves as well as other creatures. It doesn't make us a robot. When I've met these creatures many times over the years, I believe that they are a organic organism. They have blood, veins, eyes, ears, fingers, bones. I cannot call them robots or automatons. I feel that they are clearly and obviously a genetic, a biological creature. As far as being controlled, if you took an implant, right? We're developing brain implants right now. If you took an implant and put it in a hamster, and then you controlled the hamster, would you still call it a robot? No, it's its own organism. My experience with these gray aliens, they do have some individualism amongst them. They sometimes get in arguments with each other over whether they should do one thing or another thing. So disagreements, things like that. When they communicate with you, there's a certain amount of individualism that allows you to realize that there are differences. Some of them will speak to you in the voice of a female, which makes them seem very like they might be a female organism, and some will speak to you in a voice that's a male, telepathically speaking. So you'll hear a female voice in your head or a male voice in your head, and you'll get the sense that this is a male creature or a female creature. So let's go on to, I do think that they're probably genetically engineered. We would do it. Why wouldn't they? If you have the technology to make your species stronger, and instead of allowing nature to have mutations and things like that, why wouldn't you do that? As far as robots, in 2009, when I had my experience, I did get the sense of emptiness, emotionless. I would call it robotic. I got the distinct sense that one of the creatures was robotic. In fact, the term robot came to mind because they were so emotionless. In that instance, one of the creatures threatened my life. I started it. I threatened them first. The creature said, hey, if you endanger us, I'll do what I have to do, and I won't feel anything. And he showed me nothing. In the telepathic communication, he gave me the sense of zero, of nothing. Like, I'll do it because it's my job to do it, and I'll feel nothing. And I got the sense of robot. Like, I'm just doing my job, like almost like a contract killer or something, where they will harm someone without any regrets, like a sociopath, like emotionless emptiness. And from that communication, that telepathic communication, I did get the word or the sense robot came to mind, even though I still don't feel comfortable calling them robots. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. We're going to look at clip number 2 right now, and we'll talk about that.
This is what I've heard.
Okay.
This is Jack. I know you, Jack. You're going to love this part. He said that all extraterrestrial interviewers, or at least with the grays, the short ebens, must have abnormally low blood pressure due to the high vibration levels of the grays. Now, I've had another person that people think is full of it. His ex-girlfriend came out, said he's a liar, but in an interview off camera, private interview with them, talking about trying to figure out what this monitor was, he said, I can tell you one thing. They buzz. I'm like, who buzzes? He said, the grays. The grays buzz. They let off some sort of electrical discharge, buzzing, vibration. That's what I've been told. Take that for what you were.
Okay, so in that clip, he's talking about it got cut off a little bit, but all telepaths have low blood pressure to communicate with these short gray aliens because the way that they communicate and he calls it they vibrate. Um, Millions of people have described this, where they've come in contact with these creatures and they feel a vibration all over their body. Um, some people describe it as a microwave because microwaves will vibrate the water molecules in a substance and everything will vibrate. I've had this experience where I've vibrated when I was a kid and these creatures came around where I felt a full vibration in my body. Um, from my own personal experiences, I have low blood pressure. Um, in fact, multiple times when I've gone to the doctor, they've commented, they've checked my blood pressure. They say, "Hey, your heart is beating at like 42 beats a minute. Is that normal for you?" I've had a dentist ask about it for some routine dental work. Um, so that is a very interesting tidbit of information that there's a possibility that the telepaths need to have low blood pressure. Um, I don't I don't know if that has anything to do with me. It's just I have low blood pressure, so it's just a very interesting piece of information. I didn't expect to see it. I didn't expect to hear about it, and I just thought that was really it just shot out to me. We're gonna see another clip here, and we'll react to that.
And I'm going to go on the record here, which I don't often do. I believe that the government had a fetish of hiring these brainiac, um, savant uh, individuals who could not stand to be in a classroom, who did not go through, could not stand the structural regiment of college life. Look about Bill Gates. Says he just could not sit there. Zuckerberg could not sit in class. I think the government had a fetish and a strategic um, aspect to hiring these people. So if they did go rogue, they would say, well, Dan Bursch, Lazar, they're crazy people.
Okay, so that in that clip, Jon Stewart, the former gubernatorial candidate and investigator, he's talking about how they like to hire crazy people. I don't want to call them crazy people, but highly intelligent people with issues. There's been many studies that have come out showing that people with high IQs tend to be very different in terms of the way that they interact with society, the way they interact with people. Some people say if you have a high IQ, you have a low EQ or emotional quotient. So when your intelligence goes up, your capability of dealing with people and communicating and things like that goes down. If you think about savants with autism, they can play piano like Mozart, but they can't cook their own chicken nuggets. And that's not to disparage them. That's just to say that they have many issues with themselves and being able to live a quote unquote normal life, even though that they are highly intelligent. I wouldn't put it past the government. If you have this type of thing going on behind closed doors, you are certainly going to hire some of the most intelligent people you can find. Um, in this interview, Jon seems to believe that uh, they do this because it's so easy to discredit these people. Um, it may simply be that you just need high intelligence people, and with high intelligence people you have a lot of issues being able to take care of themselves, being able to interact with other people, being able to function in quote unquote normal society. He goes on to talk about CEOs and things like that of multi-billion dollar and trillion dollar companies. These CEOs dropped out of college. They said hey, I couldn't just sit there any longer and listen to lectures. I had to move around and do something. We see plenty of people that are intelligent enough to get into the highest academic setting and simply leave academia because they say, quote unquote, it wasn't for me. So that's a very interesting piece of information. I don't know if you can correlate them hiring people with issues to purposely doing it. They may simply need people that are incredibly intelligent that just come with issues. If you know, no matter how intelligent a person is, you need somebody that understands the science behind what's going on. It's possible that they could always use their issues to discredit them later, but I think it's dubious to believe that they purposely go after people with issues. I think it's more likely that if they want to get rid of you, regardless of whether you have issues or not, it's easy to get rid of people when you work for the government. You know, they have plenty of ways of doing it. Look at Nixon. You know, he wanted to attack the Democrats. He sent people in to meddle into their offices. It's easy to order some government people to go out and do things that they shouldn't be doing. And it's happened many times throughout the course of history. For instance, there was a plan to engage Russia essentially in nuclear war back, I believe, in the 60s when Kennedy was in office. This was a plan to attack American, I believe they were airplanes, malls, things like that. So to attack Americans, blame it on Cuba so that way we can invade Cuba. The problem is that during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Russia was backing up Cuba with nuclear missiles. So this was a guaranteed way of engaging in armed nuclear conflict with the only other superpower that mattered at the time, which was Russia during the Cold War. This was Operation. You know what? I'll find it online and I'll clip it. I believe it's Operation something. We're going to bring you a fourth clip and we'll react to that.
Not saying that's true, people. I'm telling you what I've been told.
So
And Victor says the same thing.
So the idea would be that they wanted to
They
come
want
into custody and to have
right,
these interviews to give us some information.
right.
That's fascinating. Do we
You
have
know,
any information about where these beings came from? I mean, are they from our 3D reality? Are they from a
okay,
higher dimension? Are they
okay.
from the Pleiades?
It's a great story. Great story. So David Oates does reverse speech. I am telling Barbara this. She has no idea who David Oates is. I said he's been doing this for 30 years. He claims Richard Hoagland, the Mars guy, lied. Not that he's a liar, that he lied. Bob Lazar's story, parts of it are lies. David Oates goes, do you know the only person, whistleblower in ufology that I believe is telling the truth? And I'm like, oh God, who's this? He's like the whistleblower who called himself Victor. And I'm watching, this is on YouTube. And Victor says they're in my head. And another thing they get from reverse speech, whether you believe it or not, is Zeta Reticuli. So I talked to Barb and I told her this story, and she's like, um, Roger consistently said reticuli, and she was like asking me what is the official. I said, well, I think it's Zeta Reticuli myself, but the reticulum star system, I think that's what they say. This is me and Barb talking. She said that's what Roger said that his types of grays came from.
And any idea about how they get here? Do they go
And
faster than the speed of
can I say
light? Do
one
they go
thing?
slow? Do they jump through
Yeah.
dimensions? How do they?
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
And my Victor being, according to the Defense Intelligence Agency, alleged internal investigative memo. Did you like the way I said that? Alleged.
It's all alleged,
Said,
guys.
right, all alleged that the Victor alien came from the TAU SETI star system, which is in near the reticulum galaxy. I don't know. I'm not an astronomer. Pretty interesting. Okay. So what was your question now? Next question. Sorry.
Yeah, just so yeah, where are they? How do they get from place to place? I guess if you know.
Right. Well, she doesn't know, and Roger didn't tell her.
Yeah.
You know, I
Okay.
could just simply tell you what people have told me. You know, it's the blipping is that's my word, in and out of dimensions. And I tell you, everyone the story. I'm having lunch with someone. I see a photo. I see Pete 45,000. Take this for whatever you want. I said, we have 45,000 aliens in captivity. No, that's 45,000 into the future. I'm like, okay. He goes, John, look. A lot of these beings are us from the future. And then I get the story, and Stephen Greer kind of cut the rough edges off it. An extraterrestrial is from the human lineage. An alien is not from the human DNA, the human lineage. So says this whistleblower who talked about these beings being from the future.
Okay, so in that clip, Jon Stewart talks about how aliens might want to be caught. Where do they come from? Things like that. I have a personal anecdote about aliens wanting to be caught. It seems pretty wild. I don't know if they want to be caught or not. But there was an instance when I was 27 years old, I believe, where I went outside and there was a gray alien standing about 30 feet. I came around the corner of the house and it was standing in the backyard. Fully lit backyard, big outside light. I chased it. I thought if I could grab this creature that I could show the world they exist and I could get help. When you're suffering abduction, you have a lot of trauma and things associated with it. So when I saw this creature by itself, I was like, if I could grab this thing, I could show everybody. And I chased it for probably, I don't know, 100 feet maybe. It outwitted me easily. It escaped easily, but I did gain on it. I started running at it. It turned and ran away. I gained on it to probably 12 or 14 feet. It went around a corner into a lightly wooded area, and I lost track of it, and it was able to get away. I actually watched it get away. It jumped a small 4-foot fence and ran down the fence line, and I stopped giving chase. It's a much longer story. We shouldn't tell it here, but I just think that's pretty interesting that Jon Stewart was reporting that they believe maybe these creatures want to be caught. It didn't defend itself. It could have ran much earlier when I started to chase it. It waited till I got close enough that it was just out of reach. I believe if I tried to tackle it, I could have tackled it. I didn't, because I was gaining on it, and I thought, well, if I'm gaining on it, I could just grab. There's no reason to jump on it. I could just pick it up. You know, if I just a few more paces, and I'll be able to pick this creature up. And in my mind, I know this sounds, I don't want to say crazy, but anybody that's ever experienced UFOs and their occupants before, you just want people to listen to you. If you try to go to the hospital and tell them you've had a traumatic experience with these creatures, I promise you 9 times out of 10 they won't listen to you. Even though there are 80 million people worldwide that are now reporting close encounters with UFOs and their occupants, science is, especially medical science, is far behind helping people that are in this predicament, that need help with the traumatic experiences of exposure to these creatures and these technologies. So in my mind, I know it's a foolish thing to do. I know I shouldn't have done it. I know I just reacted. It was the first time I had one alone where I thought I could get it. I could grab this thing. And I was obviously wrong, but the idea that they want to be caught and it allowed me to do what I did that night, it didn't stop me. That's also a really interesting tidbit. All of this that I wrote, by the way, about my personal experiences are in my book. It's on Amazon. I'll link to it in the description. It's called Violence Will Not Be Tolerated, an Alien Abduction Story. So I've written, for instance, with that story about chasing the creature, I wrote that in 2020 and published it in 2024, well before this interview came out. So before Jon Stewart has put this information out to the public about aliens want to be caught, I already wrote that story down. So it's a very interesting, another nugget of information that correlates back to my own personal experiences, and I thought that was really important to talk about. As far as talking about where these aliens come from, Jon says that some people in the program reported Tau Ceti, where these particular grays came from. But then he gets into talking about Zeta Reticuli and the reticulum system. Are aliens humans from the future? This is an argument I've seen put forward many, many times. He talks about the P45,000 aliens from 45,000 years in the future. He talks about aliens extraterrestrials being humans in the human line or the human lineage. So essentially our genetic cousins, regardless of whether they're from the future, the past, or the sideways dimension, the upside down, wherever they're from. I hate this idea. I don't even know what to say about it. I don't like it personally because I think these creatures are not great. I think they have a lot to be desired. If we turn out to be like them, we've failed. I think we can be much better than these creatures. We can be much more empathic towards one another. We could be a kinder civilization. If they really are aliens from the future coming back to collect DNA, well, that raises a lot of other questions. Because if you're sending DNA collectors to the past, well, what happened in the future that you need this DNA? The fact is that in just 1,000 years, we will be a different species. We have started to modify ourselves genetically. People from 1,000 years in the future will not be like people from today. That could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. When you meet these gray aliens, they leave so much to be desired in terms of who they are and how they treat human beings. And I know we treat each other terribly as well. That's not the point. The point is if we're going to evolve for 45,000 years and we still can't treat each other decently at that stage of evolution and technology, then we failed as a species. So I hate that idea, but I would never deny that it could be true. If you ever see their technology, ever fly in their ships, you'll understand. You step onto a ship, 15 minutes goes by, you step off, hours have passed outside. That is such a strange phenomenon with the space-time manipulation, as well as appearing, disappearing, whether that's invisibility or teleportation or interdimensionalism. There's so much about the phenomena with these creatures and these UFOs that could be associated with interdimensional or time travel that I don't think that we can discount it. I just don't like it personally. If that's the information that the government is withholding, that these are us from the future, or they are our genetic lineage of some kind, whether they're from Mars or another solar system, I think that's a huge issue, because if we had evidence of a future human race or a cousin, we could learn from them so much more than we could an alien species. We could say, man, they really messed up in the year 2900, and we could do things to make ourselves a much better species. So if the government really is keeping information such as time travel or interdimensional, if the government is keeping things such as time travel or interdimensionality away from the public, that is a huge issue. So we want to thank Jack from Cosmic Road, and we want to thank Jon Stewart for this. Is a fantastic interview. These are great pieces of information that we get to react to. I highly recommend, if you're not a subscriber to Jack's Cosmic Road on YouTube, we recommend you go over there and watch all of his videos. They're absolutely fantastic. He does a great job. He asks great questions. If you'd like to support our channel, there'll be links in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment. That's the Unacceptable News. Don't like, don't subscribe, just run.